Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to review integers. So we're just going to review some vocabulary word. So hopefully you maybe remember what an integer is. If you don't, it's a set of positive whole numbers. So it's a set of positive whole numbers. Okay, so a set of positive whole numbers. Their opposites and don't forget zero. So it's a set of positive whole numbers, their opposites, and zero. So you may be thinking, what's an opposite? So the opposite of a whole number, those are opposites. So opposites are two numbers that are the same distance from zero. So they're two numbers that are the same distance from zero on a number line. Going in opposite directions. So they're two numbers the same distance from zero, but in opposite directions. So this first example asks us to find an opposite of -8. So the first thing we're going to do is to identify -8 on the number line. So -8's right here on the number line. Opposites are the same distance from zero. So we have to figure out how far from zero -8 is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. It's 8 places away. So anytime I do something in these videos, you're going to want to copy that onto your notes. So that way you can look back at them later and see exactly what we did. So -8 is 8 places away from zero. So now we have to count in the opposite direction, aka keep going on the number line and count 8 places forwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we've come to the number 8. So the opposite of -8 is a positive 8. Okay? So the opposite of -8 is a positive 8. Okay, so let's go down. Now we're going to compare these two numbers. All right, so now we're going to compare these two numbers. So you could look at a number line or not. So let's look at a number line where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to -3, and this is 0. So we want to compare these two numbers. Remember, this is greater than. This is equal to. And this is less than, right? So we want to compare them and say, which one is bigger, 5 or -3? So in order to determine what's bigger, it's the one most to the right on the number line. So most to the right. And that's how you'd establish if it's greater than. So which one's most to the right on the number line? -3 or 5? Hopefully you say 5. So 5 is then greater than -3. Okay, so it's the most to the right. Again, anytime you see me writing things down in the notes, that would be a good thing for you to write down. Okay, so pause the video and try B and C for me. So pause the video and write something along the lines of this. So your answer would look like 10 and 6 and something in the middle. Okay, so pause and keep on going. All right, so 6 is greater than -10, and 14 is greater than -2. So maybe you drew some number lines or you figured it out. Okay, so let's look at this next example. So order the cities on the map from coldest to warmest by graphing on the number line. I didn't provide you a number line, so let's just order them. So cross that out. Boop, boop, boop. So let's just order them from coldest to warmest. So I'm going to look at this diagram here and say which one's the coldest, or which number is the most to the left if you envision a number line. So we have Nome, Anchorage, Fairbanks. So Nome, Anchorage, Fairbanks, Valdez, Juneau, and Kodiak. So the coldest. Which one's the coldest? So think about temperature. The larger the number, the hotter it is. The smaller the number, the colder it is. So which one do you think is the coldest temperature? Hopefully you're saying Fairbanks. So number 1 is Fairbanks. Okay, the next coldest. So we crossed off Fairbanks. The next number or next city would be Nome. So Fairbanks was -27. Nome is -10. What do you think the next one's going to be? It's going to be Anchorage. Okay, and that's -5. Then Valdez. Okay, so finish 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so pause 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so hopefully you got the last 3 right with Valdez, Kodiak, and Juneau. Okay, Valdez, Kodiak, and Juneau, because we went from coldest to warmest. So now let's look at example 4. Which city has the highest normal temperature? And then which city has the greatest difference between its normal high and normal low? So greatest normal temperature, what I mean by that is you're looking at your highest temperatures that are normal for January. So we're looking at our high numbers. And which city? For B, difference. Think about what the word difference means. Hopefully you remembered the word difference means to subtract. So we're subtracting on this one. So we want the biggest difference between the high and the low. So the only one to figure that out is to subtract each one. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and answer A and B for me. So pause and answer A and B. Okay, so I'm not showing work for these two, but when I come and check your notes, you need to make sure that you have the work down. Okay, so when I'm checking notes, I'm checking thoroughly that you have the work down for these types of problems that I paused and just give you the answer. Okay, so Bismarck has a 22-degree difference. So let's go to the next page. Okay, let's go to the next page. We have more vocabulary there. Okay, so we talked about opposites, which if I gave you, or if I said find the opposite of 10, you would know that the opposite of 10 is -10. So along those lines, we're going to talk about an additive inverse. So it's two numbers whose sum is 0, or two numbers when added together is 0, because sum means to add, in case you didn't remember that. Okay, so now we have to use this number line down here to find the sum of 10 minus 8 plus 5 plus -6 plus 3. So you're going to be asked to do this a whole bunch. So we're going to always start with 0, and we're going to go to 10. Okay, so now we went from 0 to 10. Now we're going to go back 8. Okay, we're going to stop there because we subtracted 8 from the 10 we had. But then from that number, we're adding 5. So we're adding 5. Then from that number, we're adding a negative 6, which is the same as subtracting a 6. Then from that number, we're adding 3. And what does that give us? That'll give us a 4. So you're drawing lines to help you visualize what you're doing if you're given an expression like that. Okay? So the next 2 problems I want you to do, so example 6 and example 7. Okay, so pause the video, make sure you show me the work. Number 7 doesn't really have much work because you're just visually seeing, but make sure you show me your work for number 6, and I'm going to give you the answers after you unpause. Okay, so for number 6, if you just had 0, that's not entirely the right answer. That doesn't exactly answer the question, which is to find the temperature. Okay, so make sure you have that in the right format as an answer. And what I always find for when we're listing things out is to put the numbers in order and then put the people's names and such. Okay, so let's look at example number 8 then. So take a moment, read that on your own, okay, and try to answer that first question. So hopefully you read it. And the mean streak has a change in altitude of 155 feet, whereas the Texan Giant has a 137-foot change. We want to know how much further you drop on the mean streak. So whatever number comes first in the problem, that's always the number we start with. So we always want to start with the negative 155, which means that B isn't going to be our right answer. And we want to know how much further you drop. So with that, we are going to be subtracting those numbers because we really want to find the difference between those two numbers. So that means our answer is going to be A. So that we know which expression to use, now we're going to actually solve it. So whenever you subtract by a negative number, there's something called keep, change, change. So the KCC, keep, change, change. So you keep that first number, change this to a plus, change that to a plus. And that only works if you're subtracting by a negative number. Okay? So you keep, change, change. So now we're actually subtracting the 2. And when you do that, you get negative 18 feet. Okay, so you should get negative 18 feet. All right, so I want you to try this next problem on your own. So try number 9 on your own. Pause the video. Make sure you show your work, because I'm just going to give you the answer and when you unpause, but I need to see exactly what you did to find that number. Okay, so pause, do the work, unpause to check your answer. So your check is for $27.85 then. Okay, so now you should work on your homework, which is on the last page of the packet. Okay, and start working on your activities. Make sure if you missed something that you went back and listened to it again, looked over the work. So if anything's confusing, please make sure you ask in class tomorrow for me to reiterate something, okay? Cool.